know it's little looks sort of unorganized today. It's unavoidable situation. MS folks having a family get together today in a training room, so we have to make use of the lunch room, right? I think it's all right because we have less number of participants today. I don't know why. So anyway, we have 2 sessions lined up. I will be doing the very first session, which talks about what's new and improved in SharePoint 2013. Less demos, lot of slides, few screenshots. The reason why I thought doing this session, when I was searching for a topic, actually when I looked at all the past session, I noticed there were no one single session which talked about what are the new and improved features in SharePoint 2013 release when product got released. We normally used to have, when there's a new version release, intro sessions or introductory sessions talks about the new features, enhancements, features being moved out and all that. There were no such sessions, so I think there were a lot of deep dive advanced sessions on selected topics. So I thought maybe to do a sort of 360 degree overview session, so that I can cover full spectrum of the new features and enhancements in SharePoint 2013. Also, I will highlight what are the topics we have already covered by Melik, Prabhat, and Sachira, a few other good speakers in some of the selected areas. Then you can identify what are the other areas that we could talk about, right, in depth. Hopefully, speakers like Manoj and myself and maybe someone from your side can pick up another topic from this slide deck for upcoming forums. So that's the whole objective. This is not a level 300, 400 sort of advanced session. I would rate it as between 100 and 200, right? So that's the whole objective. And also you have to excuse me, I might cough time to time because I was sick. I was supposed to deliver last Thursday .NET Forum session. I didn't turn up, I was in hospital. Got back only on Saturday evening. So still I'm down with cough and not in good shape, right? So you might have to bear with me for next I would say 40 minutes, right, until I hand over to Manoj. So this is the agenda, and please feel free to stop me, right? If you have any questions, right, you can talk to me, you can ask me anytime. So I thought of covering quickly what are the infrastructure improvements in SharePoint 2013 from 2010 to 2013, right? And what are the service applications improvements, and what are the improvements in information architecture, we call it IA in short, and what are the improvements in ECM side, enterprise content management, and what are the improvements in WCM, social, search, BI, and last the composite. And also I have one slide which talks about the new app model, the development platform enhancement we have, apart from what we have in SharePoint 2010, right? So that's pretty much agenda for me today. So if you look at infrastructure side of SharePoint, SharePoint is an umbrella term, right? So even though we call it SharePoint as a product or sometimes as a platform, it actually a set of tools, set of products, set of technologies together, right? So that's why Microsoft used to call it as SharePoint products and technologies, right? So that's how they name it, those days, SharePoint products and technologies, right? Because it requires sort of other technologies to perform very well, starting from Windows Server, IIS, .NET Framework, SQL Server, Microsoft Office, SharePoint. Now we have App Fabric, Windows Identity Manager, right? So we have a whole lot of other technologies for it to work properly, right? Because of these dependencies, because of this major number of dependencies, SharePoint, some of the implementation were perfect, some of the implementations were not really perfect, right? So we had a lot of pain points, right? A lot of customers started complaining about the performance. Performance is one of the number one pain points we had in SharePoint implementation. Right? So most of the users were happy with what SharePoint could do, but they also started complaining, saying it would have been better if this works really faster than this. So performance has been a very a big pain point in during the past. The reason is, I mean, we could ask Microsoft, okay, SharePoint team, okay, why can't you make it work faster? Why can't you make it work at least like ASP.NET, right? At least take it to that level, because we know plain ASP.NET sites work much faster than SharePoint, right? So that's a fact. The reason is not because of anything, because SharePoint depends on a lot of other technologies, right? So it has to go back and forth and talk to SQL server, bring your documents in form of binary large objects, and then send it to the front end, download it into browser, and send all your data again back to the server. So there are a lot of dependencies, a lot of network communications, a lot of interactions with other platforms and products and frameworks. So that's one of the reason why performance was a issue those days. So that's why Microsoft started investing a lot in the area of infrastructure, right? So one of the improvements, one of the new things they introduced, so this is a brand new thing in SharePoint 2013, something called request management, right? I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there was a session around request management, right, in SharePoint forum. So request management is nothing but it basically provide application level load balancing, or in other words throttling, right, of your request within your SharePoint farm, right? So what happens is, normally when you go for SharePoint implementations, you will end up installing at least 4 to 5 servers in a medium farm, right? So you will have at least 3-4 front-end servers and 1 or 2 application servers, and then maybe a database storage area network, a database SAN or a database server. So you will basically balance load among all these servers with a hardware or software load balancer. So you will have a hardware or software load balancer. So a request comes to your load balancer. From there, hardware or software load balancer will identify who's having the least amount of processing at that time, right? Who's doing the lazy work at that time, and who's damn busy at that time, and based on that situation, he will direct the request to the server who's not consuming a lot of resources, and then he'll pick it up, and then he'll go into the next application layer and the database, and then so on. So that is basically at the network level, right? So once you configure your hardware and network load balancing for your farm, so that configuration is a one-time configuration, and you don't worry about it, and it applies for your entire farm. On top of that, if you want to do this type of request prioritization, now when it comes to hardware and software load balancing, in network level load balancing, there is no prioritization of request, right? But what if I want to do this? I want to make sure whenever a request comes from my custom solution, which consists of some custom web parts, you developed maybe a workflow or maybe some application, you deploy to your SharePoint farm with bunch of custom web parts. So I want to make sure requests coming from that application should have high priority over any other request, because that application is a mission critical application that I have developed for my let's say teller, so say front office people, right? So if you want to do application level request prioritization, request throttling in other words, right? So then you need to have another level of balancing of request or load. So that's where Microsoft introduced something called request management. It basically helps you to recognize the origin of the request, right? In other words, whether it's coming from a browser and what sort of a browser, whether it's a mobile browser or a desktop browser, and what's the IP address of that request, and whether it's a request coming from an internal network or from an external search engine, right? So you will be able to identify the source of the origin of the request, and based on that you can prioritize at the application level. You can go to your central administration and you can go to your farm configuration. You can say for this particular web application, not for the entire farm. So that's the beauty. So this routing rules, this configuration or this prioritization of these requests, you will configure per web application. So whatever my routing rules that I configure for this web application is not going to affect for the other web application. So you can have one set of routing rules for web application 1, different set of routing rules for web application 2, right? And then you can have also you can configure saying, okay, these type of requests don't even process further. You refuse it from here, right? So don't take it to next level. You can refuse certain requests, and you can configure per web application. And what are the components in this request management? Logical components, we have throttling and routing component, prioritization component, and then we have load balancing component. So we have a couple of good scenarios, right? I'm not sure whether you can see, right? So it says, one example, you are developing a rich client application, maybe a Silverlight, right, or maybe a WPF bump, right? So you want to make sure all the requests coming from that has to take high priority over any other general search stuff, right? So then you can configure routing rules saying allow requests coming from this rich internet application to come in first than the other requests, right? So that's, I mean, there are a couple of good scenarios here. So that is one, infrastructure improvement in SharePoint 2013, something called request management. Second one is distributed cache, right? I hope most of you have heard about cache, right? So you know what is cache? Cache meaning saving your data temporarily in memory so that you don't have to go and read back from the database, right? So that's the concept of caching, right? So you know caching is available everywhere. Caching is available now in your ASP.NET pages, controls, right? Caching is available, when you retrieve data from the databases, right? So there are, I mean, caching is available in almost all the areas to make sure that you perform faster, your application work faster, than before. So same thing applied for SharePoint. So SharePoint has basically 3 layers, right? You have database, you have application server, right? You have the web front end, right? So forget about the application server for the moment. At least say database and your web server, right? A request comes in, right? So your request comes asking for a document. So request comes to your web server goes to database, right? Database, from the database it picks up the document, cache it in the web front end, cache it in the web server, right? So that's how it works, and then give it to the client. The reason why cache, because next time around when user wants the same document, he is not going to the database, he is picking from the web server. So this is good, no issues, it works perfect, right? When we have let's say 2 server environment. Now what about an environment where you have 5-6 web servers? So it's a big farm, right, and a large database environment. So in that case, when first request comes, say you have a network load balancer, as I said earlier, you have a network or a network software or hardware load balancer configured. Request comes, request goes to server 1, web server 1, goes to the database, takes the document, cache it in server 1, give the request to the client. Another user requests the same document, but the second request routed to web server 2 by load balancer. Load balancer identify, okay, server 1 is busy, let me send this request to server 2. But server 2 doesn't have that document in cache. It's in server 1 cache, right? Then what happens? Again it goes to the database. Get the same document again, cache it in server 2. So SharePoint has to go and get the document and cache it in every single server if the document is not available in that cache. So this is a real problem. This was a real problem when you are working in multi-server farms, right? Whenever load balancer send your request to a brand new web server, right, or say a server where you don't have the document in the cache, no matter whether the document is available in some other web server's cache, I'm sorry, it has to go and get the database from the database, get the document from the database, cache it, and give the document to client. So that's why they were thinking, okay, if there is a way, something like this, right? When the request comes, no matter how many web servers are there in the farm, if there is a way, okay, get the document, cache it in one web server, and immediately synchronize with other web servers. Cache, right? So you don't have to cache it again, and then give it to client, right? So that's what's called distributed cache. So when it comes to distributed cache, what happens? It maintains one cache, right, across all your farm servers, right? So with the distributed cache, what happens when the very first request comes, goes to the database, get the document, cache it in web server 1, and if there are more than one web servers in the web farm, it automatically synchronizes with the other web servers while it's giving the document to the client. So whenever second, third, fourth request comes, right, they don't have to cache it again because it's available in all the web servers in the farm, because it's a distributed cache, and the beauty is it's synchronized data, so the same information is available across all the web servers, right? So that's another beautiful improvement, so that it provides better performance over your content retrieval. Third one is one of the I would say smallest investment from the team, but it actually plays a very big it plays a very big role, right? We call it MDS, minimal download strategy, right? So minimal download strategy is nothing but it's all about improving rendering performance, right? It improves the page rendering performance. So what it does, you know that when we look at a SharePoint website, right? So you see your SharePoint, it's a sample screen here, sample image. It's not very clear. Let me open up. So if you look at this SharePoint site, right? All of us aware this SharePoint uses concept called master pages, page layouts. Master pages, in other words, I mean, if you look at ASP.NET terms, master pages and content pages, right? So if you see, this is basically, this area is the content page, right? So this is where your content is loaded, right? So whenever you click a hyperlink, you see your left hand navigation and the top navigation, including this SharePoint, Newsfeed, SkyDrive, and all your hyperlinks and this image, it won't change, right? It only change basically this right hand portion, right? It change only this right hand content portion, it won't change the left hand portion, right? So this is basically the content area, right? This is the content page, and the rest comes from the master page, right? So having said that, right, we have basically master page and we have a master page and a content page. What Microsoft did in SharePoint 2013, they made a slight improvement over 2010. In SharePoint 2010, what happened, even if you have your content page integrated with the master page, every single click, every single hyperlink click or a button click or whatever it is, it basically downloads the entire master page and the content page content from server to browser. It downloads everything. It downloads content from your master page and it downloads content from your content page, right? But they were debating, okay, why do we need to do that? Because master page basically provides the links and the navigation, and it rarely changes, right? Most of the time it changes the content area. So why don't we track what area has been changed and let us download only the changes, only the data. So the amount of data it has to download from server to client is reduced, right? So that's the concept of minimal download strategy. So what it does, it improves the rendering performance, download only the content of the page that have changed. So it improves the responsiveness of your sites and pages. This is a feature activated by default in certain site templates, not in all the site templates, right? So this feature is already activated in team, community, wiki, project, blog, and app site template. If you want, you can deactivate, but I don't see any reason why you want to deactivate this feature, because it really improves the performance of your page rendering, because it tracks what are the content have changed, what area has changed, it download only those content, right? And the last one in the area of infrastructure improvement is shredded storage, right? So this feature has been discussing over last, I think, few years. I'll tell you, when Microsoft introduced SharePoint 2010, they talked about this, but wasn't fully implemented. It was implemented from SharePoint side, but wasn't implemented from the database side, right? But in 2013 now, because there's a huge dependency with the database version, right? But in SharePoint 2013, it's fully implemented. So what it does, shredded storage is nothing but, SharePoint is all about storing content, retrieving content, right? Documents in megabytes, right? So whenever we store a document, it goes as a binary large object into your SQL Server database, right? Storing documents, just document is fine, that's all right, but it will be a nightmare when you enable versioning, right, for a document, and it will be even worse when you enable major and minor versioning, because in prior versions, SharePoint basically maintained every version as a separate document, right? Say for example, you create a document, now look at this, you create a document with 10 MB, you first save it, right, and later you open the document and you do a small change, maybe a 1 MB change, and you save it. In SharePoint 2007, what happened? It basically saved your original 10 MB document and another one 10 plus 1 11 MB document, so it's altogether 21 MB, right, content. But we don't have to do that, because if we can save original content and the change content or the data, right? So we are talking about only 11 MB data. So this was implemented actually from SharePoint side in 2010, right? With the help of Office 2010 and SharePoint 2010, it worked really well. Microsoft Office team introduced new set of protocols. Office 2010 client could open your document, you do a change, you save it, Office document, Office packages sent only the data to SharePoint server. But what happened in 2010, SharePoint, even though sent data to the database did not have the capability of identifying only the data, only the changes. So from the database side, from the SQL people or from the SQL side, they ended up again duplicating the document. But now with the introduction of SQL Server 2008 R2 and SQL Server 2012, now it's fully functional. Now what happens, if you are using SharePoint 2013 with SQL Server 2012 combination, you save a document, if it is 10 MB, you open it, you do a 1 MB change, it basically sends only the 1 MB change back to the server, right? Saving lots of traffic and saving a lot of disk space and reducing size of the content database, reducing the time it takes to backup, reducing the time it takes to restore your backup. So many advantages. And the other thing is, it even upload the document or your changes in background, so it won't, your screen won't get stuck. Not like in SharePoint 2007, you have to wait and see that blank screen until you refresh the page. All the document uploads happens, or the data changes have uploads happen in background, right? So this is one of the best improvements, infrastructure improvements in SharePoint, and this is really helpful, especially when you are implementing content management solutions. So those are the 4 infrastructure improvements in SharePoint 2013. Really important stuff. So let me quickly go through what are the improvements in the area of service applications. I hope all of you are aware of new service application architecture in SharePoint 2010. It introduced a set of service applications which can be shared across number of web applications, right? So you don't have to play around with, or you don't have to get your fingers burned like what we did in shared service providing, making MOS. So this service application, if you look at in 2013, we have a new service application called Machine Translation Service. It provides built-in translation capabilities from one language to another. It basically takes your pages, documents, even an entire site, and you can send it to Bing Translator, Microsoft Cloud Translator, and get it converted to whatever the language. And also it's not really limited to Bing Translator. What you can do, you can actually export your content into XLIF format. XLIFF is an industry standard we use in translation exercises, and then you can send that content to a third party translator or a human being to do a human translation, and then you can import it back to SharePoint. And this is the one actually used behind the scene in site variation concept in publishing infrastructure. Hope you attended Melik's session, I think last month. He also talked about high-level machine translation service. And the architecture is actually very simple. It's based on word automation service, which was introduced in SharePoint 2010. It basically translates content in the server side, right, in bulk. So that's why you have two modes, either synchronized or asynchronized translation. Synchronized meaning it immediately talk to the translator, send the content, translate it, get it back. It's ideal for smaller content, like converting a page or two. But if you are planning to convert an entire, say, large document or bulk document or entire site, then you need to think about doing it asynchronously. So you schedule it in memory, so it get added as a timer job. And when the time comes, it sends content to the translator, Bing translator, get it translated, and then send the content back to SharePoint. And the other one is App Management Service. It's a new service application introduced in SharePoint 2013, used to access apps developed using new app architecture. This service application is responsible for storing all the licenses, app licenses. So whenever a user uses an app developed by you or purchased from App Marketplace, it basically talks to this service application and identify whether you have a valid license, right? Whether you have valid credentials, whether you are authorized to access this app. So that's been controlled by the App Management Service. And there's another new service application called Work Management Service application. Have you heard about Work Management Service application? It's all about aggregating your task, right? With SharePoint, basically helps you to create sites and pages and announcement, tasks. You end up creating task list in your My Site, task list in your group site, task list in your departmental site, right? So it's very easy for you to get, I would say in short, get lost, right? Where you have a number of tasks and you don't know which one you need to attend first, which one you need to attend next, and which one are past due tasks, which one you have already completed, right? So if you have a way of seeing all the tasks assigned to you, right? Or maybe group of people, you also in part of that group. If you want to see all the tasks, site collection, subsites, right? Let's say entire intranet in one single location, what you can do is you can actually leverage Work Management Service. Work Management Service, what it does behind the scene, go through all the tasks assigned to you or you are involved with, right? And aggregate all of them and show it in your My Site. So then only thing what you need to do is, if you have this configured, from tomorrow go to My Site, look at the My Site page, you have all the tasks that you need to attend. Okay, so this is done behind the scene. So those are the actually improvements in the area of service applications. New 3 service applications: work management, app management, and machine translation. But there are a number of changes in the existing service applications, right? We'll discuss if time permits. But those are the 3 new service applications introduced in SharePoint 2013. And if you look at what are the improvements in the area of information architecture, there's improvement in host name site collections. Right, so now we don't recommend going for host header based site collections. We say go for host name site collections. So in that case, you can have a very friendly top level URL for every site collection. So you can say intranet.mydomain.com, extranet.mydomain.com, finance.mydomain.com. Otherwise, we used to say those days mydomain.com/site/intranet, mydomain.com/site/finance. So we have to always use those explicit path in between sites or something, right, to differentiate the URLs. But you don't have to do that now. And the other duty is all these URLs point to same web applications or same content database, right? So you have the improved scalability. And there's another improvement in the area of self-service site creation. There's a feature called self-service site collection creation, which is used by some of the large enterprises, not small organizations. Because if it is a small organization, whenever department needs a site collection, you can send an email, say I am the SharePoint administrator, I need a new site collection, this is the purpose, this is the business justification, right? Create a site collection for me, so I create it and I send you the username, basically I add you as the administrator, and then you can add other users. But in large organization, we have something called governance in place, right? Governance governance is basically a set of rules, well-defined processes, and site creation, site deletion, everything automated, right? So whenever there is a requirement for a new site collection, there may be a link where you go and request. Request comes in and then authorized by an administrator, and then it creates a site collection, and you also define the deletion process. So we have improvements like site collection sign up page, and we have a way of classification sites. Site collections are hidden, optional or required, and also we with the 2013 release, not only location assigned by the farm administrator, we also can give option for end users who are requesting site collections to define a location where they want to create the site collection. So this is called self-service site collection creation. These new features will come in handy if you are using this particular feature in your organization. And the other one, the last area that I want to talk about in terms of information architecture improvements is our use authentication, right? So in SharePoint 2010, we have two ways of authenticating for web application, classic and claims, right? The reason why we had two, because things like people picker and SQL Server reporting services components did not understand claims at that time. So that is why Microsoft said if you are planning to use people picker controller heavily, and if you are planning to use SQL Server reporting services functionality in your solution, go for classic mode authentication, right? Don't go for claims authentication. Otherwise, go for claims authentication. That's what we recommend. That's what Microsoft said. So what they did in SharePoint 2013, they fixed all those problems, limitations. Now people pickers, reporting services, functionality, all that now understand claims. So they got rid of classic mode authentication. Now only option you have when you are going to create a web application in central admin is claims authentication, right? So Microsoft promote claims authentication. They say do not go for Windows authentication or classic authentication, but you can still do it with PowerShell, right? But not available in central admin. But we don't recommend because it's deprecated, meaning it might disappear in the next release. Right? So that's the other enhancement in the area of information architecture. And going to ECM improvements, we have eDiscovery Center, right? It's all about collecting and producing electronically stored information such as documents and emails. It's a new site collection, right, provided by SharePoint 2013, and it basically consists of cases and holes. So this is very important for institutions like banks, telecos, insurance companies, right? Because you can't simply get rid of your data. You have to have a proper archival process, right? So that's where you can actually leverage eDiscovery, allowing easy retrieval of your content for any legal cases, right? If you want to produce some data for any legal matters. So it basically consists of eDiscovery sets and queries, and the beauty is it can actually it can discover content not only available in SharePoint, content available in even Exchange mailboxes, and even the communication stored in Link, right? So this is something you should try actually. Maybe we could have a session around eDiscovery, how to configure it and what are the features and all that. And the other improvements in enterprise content management is site policies. So this is again all about setting the governance. You can now configure when a site is created, when a site is deleted. Basically you can control the life cycle of a site now. You can go to site settings and say these are the rules This is how you need to close a site. This is how you need to create a site. This is when a site is deleted and all that. So this is mainly to control site proliferation so that we will not run out of our disk space. We will not run into situations where we have hundreds of sites. We don't know why they're available, who's using, who's not using it, right? Whether we really should delete or not. What if I delete? Whether people come after my neck, right? So it's very important if you want to control the proliferation. And it introduced new two-state site closure and site deletion. So the other key area that we can talk about is the web content management, right? So in web content management, it's all about publishing, right? We have nice improvements in content authoring. You know, we can now easily copy all the formatted content from Word, paste into your web page, preserve all your formatting, right? Not like those days where you take the content from Word, put it to Notepad, clean up all your formatting stuff and then paste it to your web page and then do the formatting again. It's a nightmare. But now, do all your formatting in Word, simply Control A, Control C, Control V, it preserves your formatting, right? And you have rich text editor web part, content editor web part, HTML field control with this support, and now you, I think, where you can easily drag and drop documents and everything from your desktop to your document library. So you have the drag and drop functionality as well in your web page. And we have image renditions, allowing us to render different sizes of images in different pages, right? So it is very important when it comes to supporting multiple device profiles, right? So I want to make sure this picture gets loaded when I open it in a mobile, and I need to open a different picture when I open it in a desktop, right? We have image renditions, and also there are some improvements in variations, which I think was discussed last time in our multilingual site variations session, right? So now site variations mainly for implementing multilingual sites, and it integrates with machine translation service. And the other improvement in WCM is cross-site publishing. You can actually write content in one site collection, right? And then save it. You have SharePoint search. Search goes and crawl that data, save it in the index. When a user goes to a different site collection, publish site collection, use some of those search web paths, it automatically talks to search index and retrieve data from the source site collection. It basically, in short, write once and publish in multiple places. So you don't have to write in multiple places, right? Write and publish in one place, and it is available in multiple places. Right? So it uses search service and search web paths behind the scene. It's not purely a WCM feature. It uses search behind the scene. And another improvement in WCM area is managed navigation. So SharePoint 2000 up to 2010, navigation mainly based on the site structure, based on your list and libraries, basically pages, right? You couldn't have a navigation around your content. But in SharePoint 2013, you can have your managed metadata service configured, and you can have metadata based navigation, allowing users to navigate based on the data structure, right? Not the site structure, right? So this is important because this is basically a way of improving SEO, right? Service engine optimization. So SEO native support is available now in your WCM or your web pages. For example, if you open up your web page in browser, when you go to ribbon, you have option called edit properties, and then you have edit SEO properties where you can go and provide SEO tags, right, within the browser itself, right, without opening it in source like in SharePoint Designer and doing all the meta tags. You can do it in browser, right? And the other thing is device channels. Right, this available for publishing sites only, right? This optimized sites for mobile devices, except BlackBerry as of now, right? BlackBerry support will come soon, and it basically let associate different master pages per device. So what we do is we go and configure different device channels, saying, okay, this is the configure, or this is the master page you need to use for this device, and this is the master page you need to use for another device, right? So you configure all the device channels, and publishing infrastructure will take care of loading, right? Different profiles based on the device profile. And the other thing is site branding is improved a lot. This is one of the biggest pain point we had in SharePoint 2010 when it comes to branding. Branding was a nightmare. Branding was completely out of standards in SharePoint 2010, right? So they have come to the track, right? So now you need only a person who understands, who knows HTML, CSS, JavaScript, right? So now it uses all the industry standards, all the web standards for branding your website. So you can use either Microsoft Expression Web or Adobe Dreamweaver to do all the customization. And we are not basically promoting SharePoint Design and Visual Studio for branding exercises with this release on now, right? So that's all about the WCM. So quickly going to social side, what are the improvements? So there are 3 improvements. As you can see in the SharePoint side, top right corner. Now you have access to your newsfeed hub. We call it social hub, SkyDrive hub, and Sites hub, right? Newsfeed hub basically shows recent activities, your social activities, provide quick access to people, site, document, tags, conversation, hosted in MySiteHost, and it can be accessed from anywhere, right? SkyDrive hub basically is the gateway to your personal documents stored in your MySite. You can access your personal libraries from anywhere. And Sites hub basically allows accessing sites that you are following, right? So those are the improvements in social. So you'll see here, it's not very clear picture. I'll share the slide deck with you. It basically shows all updates from the people you are following, people following you, your tags, your documents, your sites, and all the quick access items. Like here, it's not very clear. So it shows how many documents I am following, how many tags I am following, how many sites I am following, right? So basically shows all the recent activities, my follows, and my social activities. So if you look at search, right, and one other thing I forgot to include actually in terms of social improvements, integration with Yammer, right? So there actually I couldn't have it in slide. So it integrates very well with Yammer. Right, Yammer is again Microsoft's enterprise social platform, right? So SharePoint has 2 levels of integration, shallow integration and deep integration, right? So shallow is basically just surfacing, right? Yammer data in SharePoint, but you can also integrate, in deeply where you have an API and you can get all the Yammer web paths right into SharePoint, so you can have a tight integration with SharePoint and Yammer. So if you look at search, they have done re-engineering in search, right? In SharePoint 2010 we had SharePoint Foundation Search, SharePoint Server Search, Fast Search for SharePoint, Search Server Express, number of products, right? But here in this release, no multiple products, one product, which is SharePoint Search, right? And fast features are now built into SharePoint Search, right? So you have only now SharePoint Search. It provides again a lot of features to other service applications like management and data service, user profile services, right? So search service is basically sort of the hub for these 2 as well, management and data service and user profile service. Also, if you look at SharePoint 2010 had a service application called Web Analytics, no longer available. Now Web Analytics is part of search, right? And the logical architecture consists of index, query processing, administration component, role, content processing, analytics. So you can basically distribute all these components into multiple servers if you have a large search requirement implementation. And also it uses number of databases behind the scenes, search administration database, code database, link database, analytics database. So you can even split these databases across servers. So if you look at the high level architecture for the pipeline, so you can have your crawl component which will crawl data coming from any source, HTTP, file share, SharePoint, user profile exchange, and it saves data into the crawl database. Then you have content processing pipeline which will create the analytics part, in the analytics database. Also, it generates a linked database automatically. And then you have the index component, which creates the index file. Now, from this hand, I am searching for document from the front end application. It goes to query processing component. He talks to index, picks up the file, and give it back to the front end. And also, we have event store now, monitoring all the events which are happening in SharePoint Search. Right. So there are a number of improvements. Again, we have a list and library search box, right? So we call it as inline search. Now in SharePoint site, you can go to any document library, any list, and you have search box there, allowing you to search content available only within that library or a document, right? And you have search navigation. Hover card is something nice. I'll show you hover card in a screenshot. So basically, hover card is this, right? Where you have review, right? I move my cursor over this document, and you get the hover card. But hover card functionality is available only if you have Office Web Apps integrated. And then we have set up new web paths, content search web path, right? It shows recently modified content. And also we have a concept called display templates, where you can go and change the look and feel of your search result without playing around with XXLT, because XXLT is a nightmare, right? So you can have your own layout files now stored in master pages gallery, and there is a location where you can save your customized layout files. It will pick up when you want to show the search result. So that's a beauty. And BI, I have only one slide which talks about some improvements. Excel, in Excel we used to have something called Power Pivot, right? We talked about having a Power Pivot adding, right? So when Microsoft introduced SharePoint 2010, we talked about Power Pivot, installing Power Pivot, adding, we said in-memory data analysis, processing and all. Now that feature is not adding anymore, right? It's baked into Excel, right? It's integrated into Excel, right? So you have in-memory BI, not as adding, fully integrated, and also you have something called Power BI, which is embedded to Excel. It allows visualizing and interacting with model data. Also, you can share it as a storyboard, a presentation, either through Office 365 or on-premise version of SharePoint. And Excel service has been around for a very long time. The improvements are, now you can easily explore data and conduct analysis. You have something called field list and field belt, enhanced timeline control. So there are a number of enhancements in Excel services. It's not a new thing. Same thing, performance point services. It's been around for a while, but now it's very easy to migrate your dashboards, create your dashboards, and you can visualize data with scorecards, reports. And also the beauty is now it supports iPad with Safari browser, which didn't in the previous version. So now you can open up your dashboards, scorecards, right, all that stuff in Safari browser, right, in your iPad. So this is actually a screenshot of Power BI, right, where you can visualize your data, and this is a traditional performance point dashboard, right, in SharePoint 2013. So if you look at composite solutions, so composite is all about putting everything together, right, building custom solutions, rapid business solutions using Power of SharePoint platform and Power of SharePoint tools, right. So if you look at composite solutions in SharePoint 2010, we talked about SharePoint Designer a lot. We bragged about SharePoint Designer. We said SharePoint Designer will do this, will do that, right? No code solution, etc., etc., etc. Visual Services, Visual Studio, InfoPath Services. Actually, we started with browser. We said browser, Visual, InfoPath, SharePoint Designer, Visual Studio. That's how it went, right? BCS and all of that. But in 2013, if you look at tools, you still have SharePoint Designer, but we are not promoting it a lot, right, for certain exercises like branding and all, right. We still have Visio, we still have the power of creating workflow, designing workflows in Visio, and doing import and export into SharePoint Designer, do the rest in SharePoint Designer, right, when it comes to your workflow designing. And we still have Access, and Access is good because, Access is better now because we have two service applications in SharePoint 2013, Access 2010, Access Services 2010 and Access Services. Access Services 2010 is nothing but supporting the old way of converting your Access database into SharePoint list and libraries. But Access Services, which is the 2013 version, is nothing but the latest version of the Access service, where you can easily get an Access database converted to not SharePoint list and libraries, SQL Server 2012 tables and a database, right? So if you have an Access database now, if you want to get it, publish it to SharePoint, or you want to convert it to SharePoint, right? You want to get rid of the Access, right? You can use Access services. It easily convert all your database, all your Access database tables and everything into SQL Server 2012. You have to have SQL Server 2012. It's a mandatory, not any lower version, right? And database tables. So it's no longer SharePoint list or library, right? And InfoPath, I put asterisk, even though it's still available. InfoPath is dying. Microsoft is not promoting InfoPath anymore. And the last but not least tool for coders is a Visual Studio, right? So if you think any of these tools are not going to fit for your requirement, you can always go for Visual Studio and you can start your C#, VB.NET coding style. And VCS is again like 2010 baked into the foundation, right, platform. You can leverage Office, SharePoint, Surface to external data, and beauty is 2013 support OData. So you can use OData with VCS, and also it supports SharePoint and Office apps. Another important thing which we didn't have in 2010 is support for event listeners and event receivers. In other words, VCS is all about surfacing data from an external system into SharePoint, right? So if you want to track any data changes in external system and you want to do a notification to SharePoint or the other way around, so you have now event listeners and event receivers, right? So you can get the benefit from event listeners and event receivers. I explained about the Access services, right? So the last slide that I wanted to talk about is about one improvement in developer platform. I think we had a good session around this, right? About apps. So as a developer, right, we started the session talking about infrastructure improvements and improvements in service applications and ECM, WCM, search, social, BI, and all of that. So most of you are developers. So as a developer, what are the improvements in SharePoint 2013 platform, right? We talked about shredded storage, we talked about distributed cache, we talked about minimal download strategy and all that, request management, all our installation stuff, configuration stuff, tweaking with PowerShell and all that. But as a coder, what's there for me, right? What's new in 2013? The main thing is apps, right? SharePoint and Office apps. So it basically enable developers to extend capabilities and functionalities of SharePoint. It's a single development model for both cloud and on-premise, not like in 2010 where you have ARM solution and Sandbox solution for cloud. Not like that. You can use apps both in cloud and on-premise, right? Same app will work in both and on-premise. So there are three types of apps you can create: SharePoint hosted apps, provider hosted apps, auto hosted apps, right? So it's basically it requires a lot of client-side programming depending on the type of app you're trying to leverage. You might have to do a lot of JavaScript client-side programming, right? But this is really important improvement as a developer, because it allows a lot of options. It opens up a lot of options when it comes to developing applications on top of SharePoint for extending the functionality and capabilities of SharePoint, right? Yeah, so that's basically what I wanted to cover today, right? We talked about infrastructure improvements. We talked about service application new service application introduced in 2013. We talked about ECM improvements, WCM improvements. we talked about social improvements, we talked about search improvements, we talked about BI improvements, we talked about developer platform improvement, right? So that's basically give you a 360-degree overview of what's new in SharePoint 2013 compared to SharePoint 2010, right? So I had to quickly run through the slides because of the time, right? Manoj was waiting for his session, right? But before we move, if you have any questions, I can spend a couple of minutes to take any questions if you have. How many of you have experience in SharePoint 2010? How many of you have experience in SharePoint 2010? How many of you have experience in SharePoint 2013? Okay. Any other version? SharePoint 2007? How many of you brand new to SharePoint? How many of you really new to SharePoint? Good. Okay. So I was sort of debating from my mind whether it's a good topic to do or not. Whether I'm sort of repeating the stuff, whether sort of doing a very intro level session. So good, because we have half of the crowd new to SharePoint and few new to 2010, 2013, right? So I think it's a good crowd. So I'll share the presentation, right, through our FB page. I'll share with Prabhat, so he'll basically upload it, so you can download and you can go through. So use this presentation when you want to explore what's new in SharePoint 2013, right? So I have highlighted all the terms, key terms, right? Key feature names, I would say, or feature areas, each term. So after that, you can go to Bing and search, and then it will give you a lot of other places to move forward. All right. Thanks, guys. I'll hand over to Manoj. Let's start the time.
Okay, guys, I'm Manoj. I think I'm not familiar with the faces right here, but there are, I think, 2-3 guys are missing who are coming every time. But anyway, how many of you guys have played around with SharePoint Foundation? No idea. So what I'm really focusing today is I'm focusing very much into SharePoint Foundation, which is the free edition of SharePoint, right? And in that also, I'm quite talking about is Foundation 2010, because actually most of the medium and small level organizations are still using SharePoint 2010, and like 10 to 20% still using Foundation. I mean, as per my experience, because I have been working with a few organizations in Asia, few countries who are using Foundation 2010, which still is really productive, and they are using it's really well. So that's why I started as well. Otherwise, I wouldn't have started with Foundation as well. I also started because of these companies are using, so I have to get into it and motivate them to go ahead. So one company recently in I think Nepal, we did a project of SharePoint Foundation migration, which is from WSS 3.0 to SharePoint 2010 Foundation. So that was really a good setup, which is for example, they were having kind of 300 to 500 GB content databases, which is really useful. So what I'm trying to elaborate today is how you can really use SharePoint Foundation as its max, because you have readily available free tools that you can leverage to get the real output of SharePoint Foundation. So let's realize this is going to be the agenda. Very small thing. I'll go quickly since we are running out of time. So we will realize what is really SharePoint Foundation is, and compare with other editions as well, and what really matters for the business, what are the boundaries that you have. Also, there's stuff like we'll be running with a high-level demo to understand, and also moving into the latest in SharePoint Foundation 2013 as well. Alright, so let's take a quick move. Alright, so this is just an overview. Like, just think a minute. If you are getting, if you are comparing with the other editions, so this will be a kind of a example, right? So, luxury house will be like SharePoint Enterprise. The foundation is this, but still, using some of the tools and materials, you can build up a nice house here as well. But don't expect much. Like, it will not look like this, but some kind of a house that you can live inside. So yeah. So comparison. If you are looking for a low level good comparison, these guys have done a good job there. You can find a good comparison there. I'll share the slide so you can go through the URLs later on. So this is what really matters for the beginners. Beginners means beginners in the sense who I'm covering here is like focusing is the companies like companies who are interested to start with SharePoint products, but not really capable of having enterprise or standard because of the product of the cost, cost of the product. So that's where the fact really impacts. So foundation, you don't need any server license for that. That's all free, and no CALs also involved. The other side, there will be server license. Also, you will need CALs. So enterprise, you will need standard and enterprise both CALs, but foundation is nothing. SQL backends, that's kind of a matter here because there are some kind of limitations in SQL Express. You are going to the Express, but you can eliminate Express and move with corporate editions like enterprise or standard. So even though you are using, you start with SharePoint enterprise deployment, so what you can really use, what are the most used stuff like? What really you are really using? Will be these things, right? I don't think that we will use much of things like you cannot use everything which SharePoint has. There will be kind of a high level stuff that we will be daily using. So these are the things I believe. It's just my belief. So these are the things that I see which is daily being used, like AD and email services. Those are already integrated. Should be, and you will be creating multiple web applications and site collection sites and libraries, blah blah blah, to cater your requirements. And there will be some search interfaces. We will be creating some. We will be having some archiving spaces to store documents, and you will be having some repositories to store official confidential documents. I think that's where mostly the intranet involved. So we will be having those kind of things, which is really will be used. So and the other side, we incorporate documents on the browser nowadays. Like from SharePoint 2010 onwards, they introduced that Office Web Apps. That will be really a very useful feature. And also BI solutions, mostly in intranets and extranets. Those are being really used, and the SharePoint is a perfect platform for that, which is becoming the one of the most popular platforms. And web parts, my sites, and organization browser. These are the things that you will be using, even though you are using SharePoint Enterprise or Standard. Yeah. So with Foundation, what you will be really missing publishing feature, which is impacts the web portal design in the branding perspective. Publishing feature will be missing, and still it's missing. We cannot take it because it's just enterprise and standard feature. It's not in the Foundation, so no search customizations. Set up. We can do some. So let's see in the next few minutes how we can leverage the foundation with the search customizations. There are some ways that we can do. So Office Web Apps. Can't we have Office Web Apps in SharePoint Foundation? Still there are ways. So let's try to understand. And no, my site is not there because it's enterprise feature. And BI features. There are some level of BI that we can achieve in foundation, but not like enterprise. Joy, correct me if I'm
Yeah.
So you all can also ask questions and stop me. You know. Right. So the backend matters. This is where it matters. Like when you are talking about a comparison between SharePoint editions and its backend, it's actually totally depends on the SQL edition that you have, right? So even though you are having SharePoint Foundation in a, Express edition SQL, so you'll be having a kind of a bottleneck of 10 GB. When you reach 10 GB, there will be a bottleneck, right? Maximum relational database size is 10 GB in SQL Server Express and Express Advanced Services as well. So you can see the all other editions are having TB of size. It's a massive size like petabyte, or Express editions are 10 GB. So it will reach very soon if users are getting to use to it. So it will reach very soon. So this is something that you have to think about when if you want to start with SharePoint Foundation. Backend will be the biggest trouble. So so in 2013, what's new? Fast search server that has been discontinued, so you cannot integrate SharePoint, whatever the SharePoint Foundation 2013 with fast search server to achieve whatever the search requirement. And also SharePoint 2013 also was coming with search application, which is inbuilt fast search. Alright, so this is where guys I'm gonna start some demonstrations with you. This is my foundation setup. So what I do, I'll parallelly start a setup to install, so you all can experience that as well. Anybody has tried to install Foundation 2010 or 13 or like WSS, which is in 2007? Have tried? No. Okay. Let's go through and realize. I know these two guys, they're already into it since I supposed to. Okay. Now I have installed all the prerequisites. Prerequisites are like same as SharePoint other editions like SharePoint Enterprise or Standard. You have to have prerequisites before you install SharePoint Foundation. So this is the setup. You can see the setup is like quite light, really light. You can understand the inside of it. So it's quite light, 169 MB only. But after this one, actually, there are some updates has been released. This is kind of a earlier version. So you can download the latest service pack through, I believe, through also included. So this is just without any service pack. I'm just running to demonstrate you. I'll just simply accept the license agreement. So this is the setup, SharePoint Foundation 2010. So you can see here, you can either make an standalone setup or else a server farm. So even though it's foundation, you can make a farm. It's really good, something really good. You can make a farm here. So I'll make it. actually go. So what we're gonna do, guys, is like I'm going to install SharePoint Foundation 2010, and to leverage that, not just SharePoint Foundation that we're going to play with, but we will need some of the other tools to leverage the functionality. For example, like Search Server Express. You already know that we have something called FAST, Fast Search. That previously it was a separate module for SharePoint, Fast Search Server, which is actually specifically came for search requirements, like you can perform, you can have massive search solutions to crawl and index a huge number of records, huge number of documents, especially for the these archiving kind of solutions. So that's the main focus that they came up with the fast search server, because a SharePoint built-in search was not capable of searching and indexing a huge number of content. So they came up with fast search server, which is really enhanced with the scanning number of records. So I'll share the details with you. What are the fast search server capabilities, blah blah blah. I'll be writing a specific blog for this thing, and I'll be sharing it in the Facebook group here. I think it's completely set up as well. So we'll be installing Fast Search Server Express, which is also free. There's no license here. So we are talking about how we can leverage SharePoint Foundation, this free edition, with free tools as well. So I'm not going to talk about any commercial aspects here. So it's going to be all the available free tools that we will talk about. So I think community has paid a lot into this particular thing. I have seen a lot of custom solutions available for SharePoint Foundation nowadays. They're really focusing into it. That's really a great news for us. So what I do, so it's like same like SharePoint other editions, same result. So I'm gonna continue with it. Keep the sheet right there. Close it. It will automatically start the configuration itself. So we have installed the product now. So even though SharePoint 2010 is quite old now, so I believe it will be useful for you guys since we have not touched it. So just give a try, and it will be really good for beginners to understand the capabilities. Yeah, there it is. So I'm taking it. I'm creating a new server farm here. So why it's being called as foundation is like, even if you build a house, the foundation will be the core thing, right? So without a foundation you cannot build walls, windows, you cannot place windows, doors and all. So there should be a foundation. So but if you remember, like before SharePoint 2003, which was the portal server, there was SharePoint was a Windows components that you can use, you can install through the control panel. So it was a really light tool, really light service, which came with Windows Server early versions. So it was light like that, and then only it was working so much. So foundation, like those days, foundation was the core thing. So then only they realized that we have to grow, we have to scale it up. So they were growing with a bunch of service applications, blah blah blah. So the latest thing is, latest these editions, enterprise and standard, those are coming with a bunch of additional stuff. They have plugged into foundation. So foundation is the core. That's why I was saying that in the topic as well, that SharePoint Foundation is the grandchild of the whole product family. So that's a whole idea actually. So I'm having a domain environment. I'm just inputting these details. This common stuff actually. Nothing much, same as the other editions. So go ahead. This one is I'm installing in a cluster. I have a SQL cluster here, so that's why this database server looks quite different. So I'm installing it in a cluster. Passphrase, same as the other editions as well, like you have to remember this. So next. Number is going to be central administration. It asks for the port number for the central administration, so it has to be kind of should not be a well-known port, so it's this 12345 or something beyond 1000 and 1000 or whatever the high number, not a well-known number. So this is the overview. Next, so configure that. We are running out of time, guys. I'll move forward with the install setup already. So here, what we were planning to do is like we're supposed to install the SharePoint Foundation 2010, and then on top of that, we're supposed to install Search Server Express 2010 as well. So what I do, I'll move with the available setup, which is already prepared right now. So it should be good to move it that one. So here, so I have installed SharePoint Foundation, and on top of that I have installed Search Server Express. So if you install just SharePoint, what you really can see is, you can only see one or two service applications right here.
So, you guys, after the session, we have snacks as usual. Enjoy it, and hope to see you next month. Thanks, Manoj.
See you. Thanks, sir. Alright, so guys, this, as I was saying, like if you have only SharePoint Foundation, just Foundation setup installed, what you will only see is like you will only see this thing, distance data connectivity service that you can configure. That is the only service application comes with SharePoint Foundation 2010. Yeah. So here you can see bunch of like considerable number of service applications. Even though it's free, it's quite good. It's good to have. So these things are coming with what? It's coming with Search Server Express add-on. Okay. So Search Server Express, like it says that Search Server, but not really, but just add-on only, a separate installer. So same as SharePoint installer package, you can download it, Search Server Express 2010. So that's also a kind of an exe you can run, and it will ask for the configuration wizard. Like you have to input the name of the database server. So simply it will run and finish. You have to run a product configuration wizard as well to combine it, integrate with SharePoint. So just a straightforward setup. I have already prepared. I have already posted a blog there, so you can read. I'll share it later. So it's just straightforward, really simple. So here, all these things are comes because of the Search Server Express. So that's the gun for us to play with Foundation. So we have Search Service application that you can configure. Secure Start Service you have, which is available in the Enterprise and Standard Edition, and you have Web Analytics Service application. You can configure Web Analytics for the sites you have, and Word Weaving and Excel Service application, which is really good. As I was saying, that you have some kind of BI capabilities in Foundation as well. BI is more into, when you are talking BI, it comes in the point that you don't talk about SharePoint for Enterprise. Not really. So here also you got Business Data Connectivity Service and Excel Service application that you can play around and make some of the BI stuff really good, and also for free. So I have configured these things. Configure it in the sense nothing much to do. So what you have to do, go to the application management, manage service applications simply, and just create new service application. So you have to input these things, like you have to give the name, a registered managed account, and also basic stuff. So you have to go through. Just simply create it. By creating a search service application, will give you all this additional stuff. And also after that, what you have to do is, you have to go to the manage services on the server. There you go. If it is just SharePoint Foundation, you will only see two of these actually. Yeah, subscription setting service, sandbox code service, and central administration, trainings, business data connectivity. Only these few you will be able to see if you have only SharePoint Foundation 2010. But here you have got a bunch of services running because of we have integrated already this Search Server Express. So Search Server is combined with as Joy also was saying, as per the 2010 architecture, Search Server came with web analytics combined together, and also some of the other services that I was talking about. So it's already 8 guys. It will be quite late. Just 15 to 20 more minutes, right? Services, all the services are running. So whenever you are starting this SharePoint server search, it's already started. But first time when you created the service application and when you are going to start the search service, it will be prompting for some details, like you have to give a name for the database and also name of the database server, something like that. Just basic stuff you have to go through and just hit next to the results. So I have configured those, so it's already there. Okay. So, if you are thinking about, let's say that your organization already have SharePoint Foundation installed and you have realized the capabilities of it and thinking of moving forward with enterprise or standards that your management or whatever pushing to go with that. You are allowed to go with now enterprise or corporate edition. So what you can do is just simply go here and you can change the product key and get the capabilities of enterprise. You can just simply change the upgrade the product from here by changing the product key. So it will not be straightforward, but this is just to change the product key only, but you have to go through some other aspects as well. So there's quite technical stuff from the central management side. So I have already created the site. This is the real thing. Just try to realize the difference between a SharePoint enterprise site and a foundation site. Anything you can see? No, right? So it's just same. When you create a web application, it's nothing but the same. So it's almost same as a enterprise or standard version. That you cannot simply recognize through interface or whatever the available stuff here, because foundation also totally same thing. So generic stuff you already have here. So this is a sample intranet that I have created to show you guys. Just the default template here. Still you can do brand this particular thing. You can use SharePoint design or whatever and get the thing branded for you. So same as other editions, nothing to worry about, same. So I have been quite playing around to make it quite nicer. Just browser level editing I have done here to embed that image and some of the readily available stuff. And I'm gonna let's say that I want to, as I was saying in the slide, I just want to click this document and open it in the browser. So what will happen if we don't have Office Web Apps? So this is the beauty of the Office Web Apps. You cannot simply open a document, whatever the Microsoft format documents in browser if you don't have the Office Web Apps. So Office Web Apps is kind of it's a licensed product, but still I think it's embedded with EA, whatever EA or separately you can buy as well. It comes with the corporate Office packages. So Office Web Apps is a kind of a separate license module, which is not free. This is a great integration for that. So you can simply open the documents from the browser. but still you are using SharePoint Foundation, which is totally free. So that's really cool, right? Just you can open any of the Microsoft format, Excel, Word documents, PowerPoint, whatever. So that's kind of a beautiful feature, a nice feature that medium and small level organizations will be having a really good purpose of it. It's really good. We have seen that this becomes a trend nowadays. When you are moving with the collaboration and social stuff, that this is kind of a must kind of a thing that you have to have because people are now really into web and they're really using the browser. So opening documents from the browser and just play around from the browser will be really a trendy thing. It would be nice to see. People will be allowed to play around. So it's quite a cool thing. Even though you are using a free product, you are eligible of integrating this particular product into SharePoint Foundation. That's cool. That's really cool. Also, what I want to highlight here. Sorry about that. Okay, so here, so this is the output of the search server. So this thing actually is supposed to be with SharePoint, corporate editions like Enterprise Standard. So these search centers, search advanced search boxes, search reports. Those are not supposed to be in SharePoint Foundation because that's only kind of a enterprise level features. So we got all these things because of Search Server Express integration. So let's say that SharePoint Foundation, all these are here because of the Search Server integration, Search Server Express integration. And if you are talking about Search Server editions as well, that's also having some kind of limitation. Search Server Express is capable of crawling and indexing a particular number of content on. So that's why it's free. So, but still, what I think is like, I believe that medium and small level companies still can, make a big use of it. It's still a big number. So I'll be writing a separate post for it. What are the numbers that you can, understand? So, still, it's really having a good use, so you can play around. So all these are because of Search Server integration, Search Server Express integration. Search box. So let's say advanced search box. So simply that is there. We call it an advanced search box because you can implement some of the logic here. Just you can customize the whole thing here. You can remove these things. You can totally customize this particular report. You can customize to a search center. So going to here, settings, search settings. You can customize scopes, and also if you are moving to search application manager. Let's try to go inside and see. This is my search service application. So this is more or less like same as the enterprise edition. So you have content sources that you can customize totally. You can add a new content source. So you are not supposed to have these features with SharePoint Foundation actually. It was just a Windows service running in the backend. You cannot schedule. You cannot customize content sources. You cannot configure file types, server name mappings, call logs. You're not supposed to have all these features, even not this interface. It's not supposed to be there. It's there because of the search server express integration, so it's really nice thing. Cool thing to play around. So you can customize the whole thing here. You can even add new content flows. So let's try to start a full call here. So if you start a full call, the web application, whatever the web applications you have inside will be fully crawled. And the file types, you can configure the file types as well. Crawl log, you can see the history of the crawl, whatever the warnings, errors and all. The same as the corporate edition. So I think we are running out of time, guys. It's 8:10, but let me finish it quickly. So it's almost yeah. These are some of the free stuff you can find. So that's all about it. So it's awesome, right? When you're having kind of free thing and it's still doable bunch of still having bunch of capabilities, which is more into corporate. So that's really good. Try to install and play around with the foundation that you can realize what are the differences actually. So if you are motivating another company or another friend that that who are interested to start with SharePoint, I believe that the starter should start with SharePoint Foundation because it will not be that much complex. It will be light and easy to manage, and also still capable of doing. I think like most of the requirements, like 40% of the requirements, still can cater to SharePoint Foundation. So try to play around and here's the details that you can keep in touch with me. Thank you very much, guys. Any questions you can ask right now. Just feel free to ask. So hope it was useful and you guys got something through that. Any questions? Just feel free to ask. Anything? Anything? Thanks, guys. Thank you very much. So let's see you in the